Hey everybody, Gage here from Sharp. Excited to have you with me for another episode. In today's episode, we're talking all about home cook essentials. Whether you're just getting into cooking at home or you've been cooking for a decade plus, in today's video, we're going to talk about the essential knives and other random tools that we feel are essential to being successful in the kitchen. So let's go. Now, of course, we are a knife shop, so I think it makes the most sense for us to start with what knives are essential to your success in a home kitchen. Now, in front of me, I have 4 knives here: a santoku, a bunka, a gyuto, and a petty knife. Now, of course, it's not essential for you to own all 4 of these knives, but we feel having 2 of these 4 knives will make you very successful in the kitchen and will allow you to do pretty much any job that you come across, with the exception of slicing bread, but we'll talk a little bit about that later. As I said, santoku is a great option. Bunka is a great option as well. As you can probably tell, these knives are both very, very similar, and they are more geared towards the home cook or to the person who has slightly limited space in their kitchen. They're both super versatile knives and are pretty much exactly the same shape. The only real difference between the two, as you can probably tell, is the shape of the tip here. So a bunka has what's called a reverse tanto or K-tip on it, whereas a santoku has what's referred to as a sheep's foot tip on it. These tips are largely just aesthetic differences, but we do find that the more aggressive tip on the bunka allows you to do more intricate tip work a little bit easier. So think about like brunoise shallot and garlic and that sort of thing. That's not to say that you can't do that with the santoku, of course, but we just feel that the shape of the tip lends itself a little bit better to that style of chopping. Now, you could also consider a gyuto, which is the Japanese equivalent to a chef's knife. Obviously a little bit longer than the bunka and the santoku, which means it's going to be more versatile, but it also means it's going to be a little bit more difficult to work with. So if you are comfortable using an 8-inch chef's knife already, or if you have a santoku or a bunka that you're looking to replace or supplement with another knife, the gyuto is a great place to go. That added length is going to make slicing tasks a lot easier. It's going to make working with larger vegetables a lot easier, but it's also super capable of those smaller things as well that we discussed. So brunoise shallot and garlic or any other sort of small, more intricate task you come across. Once you get used to the length, you can absolutely do all of those things with this knife. And then because it's a little bit longer, you can do all of those other things that we talked about. So if you have the space and you feel comfortable with a longer knife, we always recommend going with the longest gyuto you possibly can, provided the budget allows and you are comfortable using that length of knife because it's just going to be more versatile. The other cool thing about a gyuto in comparison to like a santoku or a bunka is because of that extra length, again, you've kind of got 2 spots in your profile that will allow you to do different things. So on a santoku, typically the profile is going to be a little bit flatter. This guy's not a great example because it's kind of curvy, but generally you'll have a much flatter profile, which is going to make it a little bit more difficult to use that rocking motion with. Same could be said with the bunka. Again, this guy's a little bit on the curvier side, but the point remains, generally the santoku and the bunka are a little bit flatter and more in line with that up and down push and pull chopping motion. The gyuto is great because you've got sort of a flat spot here towards the heel that you can use for up and down chopping, pushing and pulling, but it's also got kind of a nice sweep up towards the tip, so you can do a lot of rocking with it as well. It also, that profile also makes it really easy to slice with and break down fish and all that sort of stuff. So one of these 3 knives is essential. You don't need the santoku, the bunka, and the gyuto, but you need one of these 3 knives. Okay, now you have your main knife. Whether you go with a santoku, a bunka, or a gyuto, that's going to be sort of like your all-purpose, do-it-all knife that you use the majority of the time. But it's always handy to have a little petty knife to complement your larger knives. Now this guy is going to be great for butchery tasks, leaving out on the countertop. I like to refer to this knife for my home cooks as the breakfast and lunch knife, because when you're cooking in the morning, I make hard-boiled eggs every morning, cut those bad boys in half, maybe trim up some strawberries. Just those little things that you don't need your large knife out for, is the petty knife is great to have. Again, great for butchery tasks as well. So if you're familiar with Japanese knives at all, you know that the butchery specific shape in the Japanese world is called a hanesuke, and these guys are pretty similar in shape, which makes them great for very similar tasks. So whenever chickens go on sale, I'll buy a whole whack of them and break them all down, throw them in my freezer. Before I had my hanesuke, I used to use my petty knife for that task, and it works great for that sort of thing. Like we said, great for working off the board in your hand. And great for any little things that you come across. I know we already talked about how the santoku or bunka or gyuto could be used for those smaller little tasks that come up, but sometimes having a even smaller little petty knife for little stuff, or when you're drawing the tip across your board for like garnishy work, the petty knife is very nice to have. So in short, for knives, one of these three, the bunka, santoku, and gyuto, and then a petty knife to complement one of these three knives. All right, so you've decided what two knives you're gonna go with, and of course you don't wanna be using those on the countertop. You wanna keep them nice and sharp. So the next essential, a cutting board. These guys here are from Larchwood Enterprises out in Cape Breton, Nova Scotia. They are gorgeous boards made in the end grain fashion, meaning all of the grains of the wood are stood straight up like this. Your knife's edge just kind of fits in between those grains. So rather than cutting across them, dulling your knife, you're keeping your knife in better condition for a longer time. They're antimicrobial by nature, and they are self-healing again because of that end grain style that they're made in. They are said to be like a lifelong product. The fine people at Larchwood have stories of passing down their cutting boards to their grandkids and stuff like that. So I think a very wise investment if you want to keep your knives sharp for longer and you want something that's going to last a very long time, this is a great option. So second essential is a nice cutting board. Now, of course, if you don't want to go with a Larchwood, you could go with any wooden cutting board is going to be better than plastic or bamboo, or God forbid you have a glass or like rock cutting board. Stay away from all those. If it's made from wood, it's probably going to be all right. And then of course on the other end, the high soft boards from Hasegawa are a fantastic option as well. Those will keep your knife sharp for even longer, but they don't look quite as beautiful as these Larchwood cutting boards do. Moving on.
This knife's a real piece of history here.
It's been in a lot of videos now, hasn't it? Next up, the beater knife. Now, you might be very familiar with the beater knife. It might be what you already are using now that you're looking to replace. We'd highly recommend keeping the knife that you are either replacing or a junky knife you have in the drawer to use when it is not appropriate to use your nice Japanese knife. Now, what are some circumstances that would be inappropriate to use your Japanese knife with? Well, they are some of the following, but not limited to the following, would be cutting through bones, cutting through frozen foods, cutting through hard rinds on cheeses, nuts, hard candies, plastic. Basically, the rule of thumb is anything that you wouldn't bite through with your teeth, you should not cut through with your Japanese knife. You should cut through it with your piece of junk that you don't care too much about. Some other examples would be like cutting a lobster in half, or any shellfish for that matter. Prying. I mean, you shouldn't pry with your beater knife either.
That knife has pried many a can.
Always good to have just something a little more robust on hand. Typically, a lot of people start with German knives, which have their time and their place, which is what we're talking about right now. Those more robust jobs that could damage a Japanese knife, which is a little bit more delicate. Keep one of your beater knives on hand so you don't screw these guys up. Screw this guy up instead.
Quick disclaimer. You will still damage these German knives if you cut through bones, so don't be mad at us.
Yes.
If you go lobbing chickens in half, you get a chip on your stuff, okay?
That's a very good point.
And that was the first knife I ever brought into a kitchen. I thought it was so cool having a nicer Nella than the other cooks.
Okay, moving on. Now, so we're trying to keep it to the bare essentials here, right? So there are going to be some things that you might think of that you would like to have, but we're trying to keep it short and concise, and things that you absolutely need to have. So the next two things we're going to talk about are cookware. This pan here from DeBoyer is beautiful. It is a carbon steel pan. So what that means is it is very, very even when you heat it up. So you've got really, really nice even heating going on, meaning you're not gonna burn your egg here and undercook your egg on this side. It's also really good for you in that you can develop a non-stick coating on this guy without having to ingest that terrible Teflon stuff that comes on those other non-stick pans. You would do that by seasoning seasoning your pan with oil, bringing it up to a smoke, and then pouring it out and wiping it all out, and then you should be good to go. Some things that will destroy your seasoning are anything acidic, so like tomato sauce, vinegars, insert whatever acidic thing you can think of. The acid's gonna pull the seasoning off your pan and make it not non-stick anymore. It's gonna make it sticky. So you should cook your tomato sauce in your nice stock pot. This is a stainless steel pot, beautiful, beautiful pot. Nice and big, so you can do your mashed potatoes in here. You can make stock, cook rice, do whatever. Any of your acidic things you're gonna do in here. Where these two pieces of cookware are really all that you're gonna need to be successful in the kitchen. All right, next on our list of essentials are some hand tools that we feel are the most essential. So, of course, there are other hand tools that you may need, but we find ourselves, Jake and I, when we cook at home, these are some of the hand tools that we use the absolute most. Of course, we've got a vegetable peeler. I don't know why you would ever do this, to be honest with you. Just get yourself a peeler. Y style, these are the best peelers. I use it upside down. Most people use them like this. Super, super awesome peelers. This guy, he has like a little ginger grater on the inside here as well. This is a Japanese Y style peeler. These guys are awesome. They stay sharp a really long time. It's got a little eye potato core thing on the corner here as well. So a vegetable peeler, essential. A box grater. On this beautiful microplane box grater, we have a number of different sides. We've got a mandolin side. This will chop your fingers off real nice and easy, so careful on that. We've got, of course, your standard cheese grater. We've got a nice zester on this side, and then we've got this thing here, which no one knows what that does. So a nice box grater, certainly nice to have, really game changer. I know Jake, when he first bought this thing, he's like, why would I spend that much on a box grater? And after the fact, he said, why didn't I spend that much on a box grater 20 years ago when he was 10 years old?
And I bought that full price before I even worked here.
Next up, we've got, what would I say? I would say the dough card or bench scraper is more essential. I don't know, we'll say the last three are equally as important as one another. So the bench scraper, dough card, whatever you want to call it, these guys are awesome. It really makes keeping your station clean very easy. They're great for scraping stuff across your board, scooping stuff off your board, putting it in pans or into Tupperwares or whatever. Great for keeping you from scraping the edge of your knife across the board, which is really, really bad. So these guys are an essential as well. Next, fish spat. These guys are awesome. Whether you cook a lot of fish or not, you'll find you use this a lot. They are sort of angled here so that it makes it easy for you to scoop into your pan and flip stuff. Seems like a silly little thing to have, but we love these things. They really make flipping stuff in your pan a lot easier. Can you think of any other uses you would use this for, or just for flipping stuff?
Just for flipping, but it's the only spatula I ever use. And I think now's a good time to make the point that this is another reason why the carbon pan is so nice, because you can use metal utensils in it.
Oh, that's
and plastic spatulas suck.
They do. Plastic spatulas are no fun. They burn, they melt. They don't get under stuff very well a lot of the times. So yeah, nice metal fish spatula that you can use on your carbon steel pan. Essential. Next. These are you might say, how on earth are these essential? Why do I need a fancy pair of tweezer tongs? But again, these guys are awesome if you're flipping littler things, more delicate things in your pan, and you need extra precision. These guys are awesome. I also find I use these a lot for cleaning the kitchen, little nooks and crannies and stuff like that. Maybe a little, don't tell your significant other that you're using it to clean cracks and crevices, but certainly very handy for cleaning the little nooks and crannies in your kitchen. And then if you ever have a fancy dinner where you're like, you want to show off for your friends, lots of fun to have a pair of these to do your fancy plating. So essential hand tools. Done. Okay, last essential is going to be a knife storage device of some kind. For our example for the video today, we have these beautiful walnut wall-mounted magnetic strips. These guys, maybe not this specifically is essential, but a way to store your knives so that they don't get all dinged up in your drawer. You don't want to be just throwing your knives in the drawer where they're gonna the edges are gonna bump into other things, into other knives, whatever. You want to keep your prized possessions in the best possible condition, and having a storage option like this is going to help you do that. So whether it's a magnetic strip, maybe you just put your knives back in the boxes in your drawer or something like that, or maybe you pick up some knife guards or something like that. Anything to store your knives safely and keep them accessible and at a moment's grasp is going to be essential to your success. Before I let you go, real quick honorable mention here, or just sort of like a side note, and that is your bread knife. Definitely an essential tool in the kitchen, we feel, but we would not recommend spending a ton of money on a bread knife, and I'll tell you why. These guys can be notoriously difficult to sharpen and notoriously difficult to find someone to sharpen them for you. We recommend to our customers that they send their knives back to the manufacturer, because the manufacturer is the only person that's going to have the exact size sharpening tool that's going to fit into each of these little mini serrations. This particular knife is a Mercer that Jake picked up a little while ago, but you can get these on Amazon for like 30 bucks. And they're a little no frills, of course, but they feel good in the hand. They're super sharp, really awesome bread knives. My favorite bread knife as well. And when it goes dull in 5 years, you can spend another 30 bucks on another bread knife. So don't go out spending $300 on a bread knife, because you're gonna have a difficult time finding someone to sharpen it for you. So there you have it, guys. If there's anything else that you feel like is essential in your kitchen, this of course is a little bit personal. A lot of people use different tools for different things, and might find more use cases for certain tools than we do. Let us know in the comment section down below. We'd love to hear from you. If you enjoyed this video, smash that like button, subscribe to our channel for more knife related content, and until the next one, stay sharp.